Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. Take a look at this, everyone. What would you prefer? A creative who's on Twitter 24/7 arguing with people, or someone intellectual like Todd Phillips who pops up now and again to promote his movie? By the way, this image you're seeing of Joaquin Phoenix in Joker 2, Joker Folie à Deux, came directly from the Instagram of director Todd Phillips and not by a leak from Boris Kitt of The Hollywood Reporter. So this is brilliant. So basically they've started shooting Joker 2, Joker Folie à Deux. I'm very, very excited about this movie. Now you can follow Todd Phillips over on Instagram. Let's just give you a better look just one more time, because I don't have any editing software or anything like that, but look at that. That is so cool. So he seems to have a lot of puncture marks, injection marks, if you can see there. So that's very interesting. Of course, being in the asylum, Arkham Asylum, that's what would happen. He seems to be, well, he's not seeming to be, he is being shaved, obviously, by an orderly or someone. Most of this film will actually be set at Arkham Asylum, and it's also going to be a musical. I'm not convinced it's a total musical. I think partial elements in Harley's mind will be musically described, and that's very, very exciting. The casting of Lady Gaga has excited me a great deal, you know this. This is the DC I want to see. This is the DC I'm excited about. I think for me, the exciting things in DC right now are not next year's 4 movies. They're Joker Folie à Deux, they're the Batman 2, they're the Penguin spin-off, and they're the Arkham spin-offs. They're the things outside of James Gunn's kind of DC universe. Even though he claims all of this stuff is part of DC Studios. Of course, it would be, because it's DC at the end of the day. Basically, the progressives try to destroy Todd Phillips' Joker. But why? Well, I'll explain to you why. It's quite simple. This was about a mentally ill man who was a fantasist as well. You know, we saw him looking at Murray and imagining Murray asking him onto the stage and saying he's the son he always wanted. I mean, let's be honest. I used to fantasize about doing my acceptance speech at the Academy Awards, the Oscars. I fantasize about a lot of things. Yeah, women as well. Sorry about that. Ladies, I have probably fantasized about you at some time. Look, you shouldn't be hot. Anyway, what I'm saying is the progressives didn't like this so-called killer being excused by being mentally ill. This is not what Todd was trying to do. Now, Todd claims he wasn't trying to say talk about some huge big message. But there is messaging. There's the ignorance in this film towards mental health. Now, the progressives and the wokies weren't interested in clapping and saying, well done, Todd Phillips. There is a problem. There is a bad attitude towards mental health in our society. Now, this film's set in the 80s. There was definitely a terrible attitude towards mental health. My own father had a terrible attitude towards mental health. And considering one of his sons has had and has huge problems up here, if I got the help that I needed, maybe I'd be a different person today. My mum suffered with terrible anxiety, my late mum. When she was in the shower, we all had to be quiet because she had this anxiety. It was terrible for her. It was terrible for all of us, but especially to live in fear like that, I felt really bad. And we never really were as sympathetic towards her as we should have been. So that film is actually a more important movie than a film like Black Panther, which progressives were actually calling important. They tried to destroy the movie, saying it was a dangerous movie, and if people went to the cinema, they could get shot. They literally said this. So what does this do when you tell people not to do something and warn people that something's bad for them? It's a bit like being told as a kid, cigarettes are bad for you. Anyway, or fruit pastels are bad for you, whatever. Everyone went to see it. These progressives tried to destroy a movie. By trying to destroy it, they actually made it $1 billion. This movie is one of the most outstanding, CBMs ever made, but films in general. Now, yes, it is inspired by Mean Streets and Taxi Driver, but it's not a copy. It's not a total rip-off. It is its own thing, and it's a very interesting film. Joaquin Phoenix delivers an Oscar-winning performance. The film should have won Best Picture, but of course not. The Academy were never going to give this film Best Picture. The progressives would have destroyed them for doing that. So they didn't. Fair enough. But this is one of the finest CBMs. When we look at the era, the modern era of CBMs, this probably is one of the best, if not the best. It basically throws in some stuff from the comics, and if you look deeply enough, it's all there. But also it does its own thing, because Todd Phillips isn't a big DC guy. What he wanted to do was take a comic book character and use him to get attention for that film by using a comic book character, because he knows it's a trend, it's a very clever thing to do, but use the themes he wanted to use within this character, and Joker was perfect. Todd Phillips had a vision of a black label DC universe, and a black label DC Studios, where you can do a villain story about Joker, Harley, Mr. Freeze, anyone. And basically, Joker Folie à Deux is literally doing the next villain story, which is Harley Quinn and the great love affair between Harley and the Joker. Already progressive fans and elites are very upset, basically celebrating a toxic relationship. But here's the problem, elites. You talk about realism and great realistic movies, but toxic relationships are the most relationships that are out there. They're the relationships that are actually happening. I've seen them. I've lived with them. I've been in them. To ignore that. But there's another thing we need to talk about. Todd Phillips will be really controversial here, I feel, and will make Harley a very brutal character. Now, progressive, extreme left people at comics and in Hollywood have decided that Harley shouldn't be this brutal character any longer, and should be an anti-hero, should be the character that goes down on Poison Ivy and is in love with Poison Ivy instead of being in a toxic relationship with the Joker, because man, bad, right? And it's all because of the Joker that Harley was what she was, and she hasn't got any responsibility whatsoever. But that isn't who Harley actually is. Harley may seem harmless, but she's a brutal, psychotic killer. And that was always her destiny. Basically, Joker just chipped away the rough edges. And that's the point to this original story. Even in the animation, she's unapologetically a bad person. Although she's cute and she's got that voice, she's not a good person. But progressives have decided to make her an anti-hero. Just look at that progressive Harley animated series. That says it all. So I expect Joker Folie à Deux to do something very brutal, something very interesting, and it's going to be a really good movie. But make no mistake, progressives, again, will turn it into another controversial movie, meaning it will get all the marketing without WB needing to pay for any marketing, because again, the progressives will help it make $1 billion. This is how progressives keep on losing, because they're not the smartest people on the block. So that is a very exciting thing. Instead of Todd Phillips being on Twitter all day, he's not even on Twitter, by the way, he's busy, unlike James Gunn, making a movie without attacking fans, not having ego, and that's the difference. And, and that's the thing. And this is why I respect people like Todd Phillips. So it's very, very exciting going forward. And moving away quickly from this, very exciting. So Zachary Levi has been doing a lot of talking. I mentioned it on my other video briefly. But it seems it was James Gunn and Peter Safran that suggested him for Shazam in the first place. So guess who is going to keep their job as Shazam? I spoke about this earlier. I said all of this. But that just reveals to me everything I need to know about the leadership. And this, my friends, is the real reason why it's a soft reboot and not a hard reboot, because they don't want to remove their mates with that special Hollywood DNA off of the franchise. And that's why Houston, we already have a huge problem. But thank the DC gods for the Batman and Matt Reeves and Todd Phillips. Because ultimately, when James Gunn is gone after he fails, those guys will still be standing, and probably the guys that will be leading DC into the next generation, hopefully with the return of Christopher Nolan and good auteurs like that. Because I believe DC isn't going to succeed with the connective tissue, and ultimately it is auteurs like Phillips and Reeves that can lead us to a better future. This has been Movies TV Mad with me, Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection. And I'll see you again in the next video. Until I see you again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.